Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Wanted Power Hour. I am your host, Miracle Jones. We are on episode 1 of our Black August takeover. We're spending the whole month of August recognizing and celebrating Black August. For those of you who are not familiar, or if you've never heard of Black August is a month long celebration, conversation, commemoration of Black August, which started in the 1970s due to the prison uprisings that were happening in California, led by the Jackson brothers as they tried to free themselves and others from incarceration. George Jackson coming from the Black Panthers. And it is just a month where we're sitting here trying to study, trying to fast, trying to fight, and trying to train about ways to end incarceration. And so we're going to spend this month looking at what's going on with incarceration, talking to people who are impacted by incarceration, and letting you know ways that you can get involved to reduce mass incarceration here in Pennsylvania, but across the Commonwealth, and to do some really amazing engagements, some really amazing learnings. We're going to put out some readings, things for you to do to really get involved, because people do not realize that since COVID-19, incarceration has actually been increasing within the United States of America, whether it's e-carceration, which is virtual, people call it virtual, digital incarceration, people doing house arrest, people who are incarcerated in prisons and jails. Mass incarceration is still here, including those who are in halfway houses. So, what does it mean to be incarcerated? How does that impact people in Pennsylvania? And what can you do to support people who are inside, support people who are coming home, and reduce the amount of mass incarceration and surveillance within Pennsylvania? Tune in every Tuesday at 7 p.m. as we discuss this August. And so we want to introduce our first guest, Clinton from the Abolitionist Law Center, who is an organizer, a mobilizer, who is someone who actually does paralegal work, talking to and working for people who've been incarcerated. So welcome to the program, Clinton.
Thank you for having me. As I said to y'all before, this is all new for me just coming home, so y'all got to work with me.
Of course, we are so happy to have you. Welcome home. Just to get a little bit of background, can you just talk a little bit about the Abolitionist Law Center and the work that you all do?
Yeah, so the Abolitionist Law Center is a movement law firm that litigates against all forms of discrimination, basically, and whether it's in prison or outside, any form of discrimination, and fight against for people that's in situations where they can't fight for themselves. And yeah, we just use strategic lawyering to do that.
hmm And what can you just talk a little bit about why you believe the work of the Abolitionist Law Center is so important during Black August?
Oh man, well, I think it's important, period. But specifically about Black August, I think that uh, how we right now we are fighting with Mumia and to get him released, and he's a political prisoner. And we have a lot of people that's in prison that is politicized prisoners, which is those that went in a frame of mind of the criminal mentality, and but transformed themselves in prison to a different person, a new man, somebody like with the spirit of George Jackson and a lot of our other ancestors in this world. So yeah, we fight for them, and I think that is important for that right now to have.
And you said you just got home. Can you just talk a little bit about how mass incarceration and this incarceration overall has impacted you?
How has it impacted me is the true question. But to answer that, mass incarceration impacted me uh, in many ways. I don't really know where to begin, but my people in my family was incarcerated, especially the males in my family was incarcerated, which I believe have a connection to me not having male figures to support me and guide me in my youth. And I went to prison at a young age as at a juvenile, and not having that guidance is important. So I think not having that love, guidance, and all that brought me into the streets, and from in the streets took me into prison. And once I got into the system, in many ways, I didn't know the system, and in my court proceedings, didn't know anything about that, and they used uh, that lack of knowledge against you. So I think mass incarceration is something that affected me in many ways. It's so much that I could talk about in that way, but uh, yeah,
And you said, you know, there are a lot of people who go in and come out politicized, right? You go in and mature. You're someone who went in as a teenager, obviously came out as a full grown adult. Man, can you just talk about some of the people that helped supported you while you were on the inside to help you change your perspective and way of life?
yeah, I definitely want to talk about those people because without those people, I would not be who I am now. But before I get into those specific people, I want to talk about how I got to this spot, and how is a wrong is something that's detrimental and is wrong. Uh, so when I went to prison, I was young, didn't have any guidance, and I was acting wild, and it ended me up in solitary confinement. And in solitary confinement, I wound up coming on getting on a block, just happenstance, with people ancestors like Maroon Schultz, and also my elder Shabaka, and my comrade Salim, and Shaka Boona, and a lot of other people. And I wound up getting less time and coming out the RHU, out of solitary confinement. But when I first went in there, I got so much love from these individuals that was back there, gave me so much love and care, and they would just school me on a lot of things, a lot of knowledge, a lot of things that I was searching for but didn't know how to receive it, and wasn't getting out on population. So what I also did was, because I was getting that love and support and knowledge, I forced myself back into the RHU, back into solitary confinement. Now, if people don't know what solitary confinement is, it's a place where you are in your darkest moments, right? It's a place that's harmful to your mental, to your physical. It's abuse back there. It's people that harm themselves, get harmed by guards. You starve. You lose your mind in a lot of places. And the thing is about that is that I chose, well, not chose, I felt I had to. This was my only way of getting this care and love, to go back there because it wasn't out there. All those people that was with this knowledge and having this knowledge was sent to the to solitary confinement because they was given too much knowledge and understanding out to us youth. And I understood that. So I had to go back to get love, but in a way, I had to harm myself too. And this is one of the reasons why I fight right now. And when I came home, got straight into this fight because I believe a lot of our elders and people that deserve to be out should be out of solitary confinement, out of prison period, because they could do so much more uh, outside of confinement than inside. So yeah, that was a lot of those people that I just spoke about was those that helped me out in my growth. And without them, I would not be the person I am now. Salim Holbrook, Shabaka, Shakabuna, Maroon Schultz, and a lot of other unknown people.
And you talk about, coming home. What has that process been like for you? What supports and resources were you surprised were available? And what supports and resources were you surprised were not available to you as you came home?
Well, when I came home, I had great support from because ALC and also Amistad, Law Project, and others. They are not just law firms, which is different from law, like just regular law firms. These are movement and individuals, and which make them different is that they just don't leave you when you come home, if you get the opportunity to come home. So when I came home, I got so much support from organizations like ALC and Amistad and just the community as a whole. I got so I was great there. I was good at there, but it was also things that they did not know uh, uh, that I needed, and a lot of that is was emotional support, which they was there, but they just didn't know how to do it. And I think that you get that with the more people that come home and able to share their story and tell what they need and speak on what they need. So it was a lot of emotional support that I wasn't able to have. Technology support, it was crazy. I needed bad, but with all that, with having this support system, I was able to overcome it. But I know a lot of people don't have this type of support system, and this is another reason why I'm fighting now to be a part of that system to give them that the people that's returning.
Thank you so much for raising a lot of the issues and resources that are still being needed for communities and people who are coming home. You talked about doing the work, talking about trying to end solitary confinement. Can you just talk about some of the campaigns that you have going on and how people can get involved in amplifying the work that you do?
Yeah. So I want to give the website if I could. I told you I got to bear with me. Uh, so
Yeah,
Yeah, so what is happening now though? We are fighting a lot of cases. One of our biggest cases is the Derek Lee case that we fighting, and we waiting on a verdict now. We argued this in the Supreme Court, and they supposed to be making a decision sometime soon. But it's on second chances for people that have second degree murder. That's one of the things that we fighting for, and we need support on that too. Legislatively wise, like we need support. Also, we trying to end solitary confinement too. So, I mean, it's a lot that we are tackling, and if people want to find out, they could go to Abolitionist Law Center .com, and you can see everything that we fighting and who we are and why we fighting.
and as we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to share with us or talk to us about?
Yeah. So uh a lot of the times, like Well, I just start giving interviews, and I always, after the interviews, I always say, "Man, I wish I could say this. I wish I would have said this, or I wish that I would have gave this spirit." But I am a poet. I did poetry when I was inside, and I feel like me saying poetry embodies everything that I want to say. So I want to share this poem with y'all before I go, and hopefully y'all can feel it too. Uh, and it's called Cast the Shadows. All right. You made me a shadow. Since 500 years dressed in sheep attire that raised me your cattle. You named me a criminal when I'm just leaves off a tree of 1,000 misdeeds. Labeled a thief, but not a thief among you thieves, and as I bleed, you scream I'm a murderer. Who sent the reaper to my cultural doorsteps? Designed the burial of my mental death. Yea, ye undertakers of flesh and bones that ravish my house to tell my house is never a home. Yet I'm wrong when I stop singing the most Negro spiritual songs and knock you upside your head. Cause I scheme on and take what's rightfully mine. You lock me inside a cage and call it justice. Then blindfold the minds of my mothers and fathers to exploit just us. You put some Spanish to spice it up. My life is what you made. And you expect the peace to walk in your streets, whistling while twirling your cane to uniron your purse? Nah, you reap what you sow, bigot. You eat what you grow. And you grew fields of strife more to your own pleasure. So as long as you walk the meadows in your own sunlight through my nights of cold weather, I'll be that shadow you cast that's dreadful and dark as a raven's feather. I'll be that shadow you cast forever.
Listen, snaps all around. That was Clinton from the Abolitionist Law Center, someone we are so happy that is back home and is doing the work to free others, keeping the legacy of the Jackson brothers alive. So thank you so much, Clinton, for sitting there and sharing time with us.
Thank you too. I appreciate the work you doing too. You doing the work of Black August and resistance. I love it.
Of course, thank you so much. And with that, we wanted to continue on having a conversation. A lot of times people ask, like, why is Black August important? Why is incarceration important? How does it impact me? I'm not locked up, I'm not on the inside. And so our next guest is going to come and talk to us from Erie, Cyndi, who is from the Justice for Chello Coalition, is going to talk to you about why right now in 2025, this conversation is so important that we are having. And so, welcome to the program, Cyndi.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm very humbled to be here. If I may say hello to the entire team here in Erie, just fighting the good fight.
Y'all are fighting the good fight. And to get right into it, can you talk to us a little bit? What is the Justice for Cello Coalition?
So the Justice for Chello Coalition is a fiercely devoted coalition that is dedicated to finding justice for Marcello Woodard, who was shot and killed by as an unarmed Black man by his state parole agent on July 2nd of this year. We are fighting for justice, we're fighting for answers, and we're fighting for change and transparency.
And so, how did you all come together?
So there's 6 or 7 of us in the group. A lot of the gentlemen in the group are family members and very close friends of Chello and his family. I have worked some investigative research study projects. I also am in a law enforcement family. My husband worked in law enforcement in the military for 20 years. So I reached out when this happened and I said, this is wrong. I want to help. And we have just been plugging away every day, learning a lot, advocating a lot, and trying to make some change up here in a quite the tumultuous, very, very difficult situation.
And I thank you so much for the work you talked about. You alluded to it's a tumultuous situation. Can we take a couple of steps back? Can you just talk to you what your understanding is of what happened to Marcello that night?
Absolutely. So Marcello Woodard was 2 weeks from completing a very spotless parole sentence. He had been building a new life for himself with the love of his life. He has 3 children, was looking at change in his life, going back to church, building a future for himself, and was from what we understand, and there we do have video and eyewitnesses, was pulled over in a compliance check, was approached by parole agent 1 and then parole agent 2, and was shot and killed.
And
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt you. I apologize.
Subsequently, we had what became a 1.5 to 2 block crime scene that was processed overnight in the dark with a preliminary statement about what happened put out by 5 o'clock the following day. It was very, very tragic. Very, very tragic, very upsetting. We have never had anything like this happen here. And in fact, to our knowledge, it's only ever happened one other time in recorded history in the United States where a parolee was killed by his parole agent.
And you alluded to the fact that there was videos. This is a situation, there are people live on social media. And so how has how have people in Erie County been processing what happened? You said it's maybe the second time in the nation's history that this has happened. How are people processing what's going on?
I think that there are kind of 3 groups of people right now as far as mindset. There is the Black and Brown community who are incredibly impacted by the situation. This happened in their neighborhood. This is happening to their sons, to their fathers, to their cousins. There are persons that, like myself, who are fiercely anti-racist and who are standing and saying this could happen to anybody. We are all one step away from a situation like this. And then we have a very rural population who, by demographics, leans one side politically, leans one side to pro law enforcement, without really much room for wiggling or common sense sometimes. And so we have a very, very loud and strong community asking questions. We are not getting those questions answered in a timely fashion, and not just by our standards, by standards put forth by the Pennsylvania District Attorney Association, by the Department of Justice, by the International Association of Chiefs of Police. All have directives on how these things should be handled, and we're getting silent treatment. And it's very frustrating. But the community has been loud. The community has been demanding. The community is rallying behind this family and trying to get the answers for a future that was stolen.
And you talked about, the community rallying together. Can you just talk a little bit about some of the demands that are with the coalition, some of the demands that the family has put out?
Yes. So our first and foremost demand was release the names. In any other situation, if it were to have been a African-American person committing the crime, they would have already been in jail waiting for an investigation to proceed with their names released and already in jail. So we have asked for the names. We have asked for charges to be filed. We have asked for change in justice, and we have asked for a conviction.
And you talked about the names of the parole officers. How is parole operating within Erie County? How are people on parole responding to what happened to Chello?
It has been a very scary situation for the parolees here for several reasons. The 2 alleged parole agents that were put on administrative duty after this occurred, technically, when you are on administrative duty, you are not supposed to be engaging or interacting with parolees. parolees were still being made to come into the actual office and meet with them, and were scared, and still are, for their lives. We technically, in all sense of the word, have a killer wandering around Erie County with allegedly not a great past. We've also had some very interesting conversations about dash cam funding that was supposed to come to our county that may have been moved around, that prevented these parole agents from having dash cams and body cams available. We've had conversations and interesting, I would say, tips to the degree of, whistleblower protection tips, that there were agents brought on that were not trained properly because of a lack of funding to do that. And we have parolees who have been threatened with arrest if they come out and protest. So it's insane. I mean, it's just absolutely abhorrent. We're shocked. There's just no words. I mean, it's a terrible situation. It really is a terrible situation for everybody involved.
And you said that there, are parolees who are really right now afraid for their lives because they're having to,
Yes.
at some point interact with these individuals. What has been the response for some elected officials? I know you all had a very passionate council meeting a couple of weeks ago where you were demanding support for your local officials. What has been some of the response to your demands and your request for support?
We have been very lucky at this point. Most of our city council has rallied behind us after that meeting, after that council meeting. I would say prior to that, it was noticeably quiet, noticeably silent. We are getting statements from our district attorney. Basically, I'm making a statement that I'm not making a statement. We are not getting any updates at all from the independent investigative agency, which is the Pennsylvania State Police. We are not getting any real support from our county council. We put out a letter asking for a special meeting, or for a letter asking for transparency, communication, and justice that we needed an answer for today by 5. And basically we were told, you can come to the meeting on the 12th, as is our right anyways, and we'll give you your 3 to 5 minutes. Erie is a different place. It's a larger city, but it's not a Pittsburgh larger city. It's not a Philly larger city. So we have what I would call the good old boys network. I think everybody who lives here is pretty familiar with that phrase. And everybody who, not everybody, many people who work in law enforcement and the legal system are very closely intertwined with each other. So we have pushed and pushed. We sent a letter to the district attorney asking her for a statement. We were ignored. She did not even respond. We have put out press releases. We are engaging with local politicians, having conversations with local clergy, with you, Miracle, who have been just such a huge help in guiding us and keeping us on the straight and narrow as far as what we need to be doing, where we need to keep our focus, and kind of just keeping us all calm. It gets a little hard sometimes to be an advocate after not having been one forever. So we're really waiting for our local government to step up, do the right thing, take a stance. We know details cannot be discussed, but there are ways to handle a press conference that should have happened on day 2.
Mm-hmm. And can you just repeat what the demands were again, just so we're clear?
Yes. So we want names released. We want charges to be filed. We would like change to occur within the system as far as how parolees are treated, how they're tracked, internal affairs within the parole system, so on and so forth. And we want a conviction.
And to your knowledge right now, is there a clear understanding of why Chello was stopped?
There is no understanding at all of why Chello was stopped. No one
And
has
then
provided that.
there was an original conversation that said there may have been a compliance check, and it seems that may have been walked back a little bit. What type of, you said the DA is making statements about not making statements, but what type, is somebody communicating with the family? Is somebody talking to anyone? Like, what type of communication is ongoing?
None.
So you're shaking your head. You're shaking your
None.
head no.
Yeah, there is
And
none. We had to pressure the district attorney at a protest to speak, and she subsequently that day came out and made a statement. Basically, this is the investigation. This is what the Pennsylvania State Police are investigating, and I cannot make any statements that would potentially harm the case. And then we asked for her. City Council asked for her. The mayor asked for her, and we asked for her to make weekly statements, keeping the public up to date. And she has made one, which was basically, I'm not making any additional statements. Ditto on the last one. So we're not, the family is not being updated. The community is not being updated. I really do think that they're thinking that we're going to slowly disappear and give up. And Chello was very loved. He was very loved. I did not have the honor and privilege of knowing him, but I am now, I could say that very, very firmly that I love his family. And he was very loved. He worked within the community. He worked with youth. He bought his entire basketball team that he helped coach basketball shoes. Yes, he had a past, as does every single person on this earth. But the problem is his future was stolen.
And I thank you so much for raising that issue, because a lot of times people try to disparage those who have made mistakes or have criminal, backgrounds. But as we saw with our prior guests, there are people who do change, people who come home who make a difference and are trying to help and support other folks. And so you talked, about some of these politicians locally supporting you. What are some of the demands that you have for other Erie County officials, or even statewide, Commonwealth-wide officials?
I'm sorry, what was the question? Could you repeat that, please?
What are some of the demands that you have for other elected officials in Pennsylvania?
The means that we have as far as reaching out to people, is that what you're asking?
No, demands. Like what demands do you have of other elected? Yeah.
Demands.
Okay, no problem.
Well, we have been very clear since the beginning. Governor Shapiro started a clear commission specifically related to and in response to a bias-based situation, complaint within the parole system. The entire clear commission was started for that. It's a 9-person commission that whose members were hand chosen by Josh Shapiro and voted on by the Pennsylvania State Senate. They put out their first recommendations just the beginning of this year as to what they wanted to see within the parole system. Also additional requirements and suggestions within the Pennsylvania State Police. We would like to see them be more proactive right now. We do understand that it takes some time for them to investigate things. I think there's about a year to a year and a half, maybe 2 years window. We would like to see Governor Shapiro talk about as much about Marcella Woodard as he does about our great law enforcement in the state of Pennsylvania. We cannot support our law enforcement if there are law enforcement who are acting outside of the law. That puts everybody at risk. Law enforcement, civilians, brown people, black people, white people, kids, adults, everybody. So we'd like for him to speak out more. And to be frank, we need more support and more awareness. Erie is a kind of this little microcosm. And the more that the people in Erie know that this is out and supported, the better off we will be, the quicker we will get answers.
Thank you so much. And as we wrap, how can people get in contact with you and the coalition to raise awareness, to show up, to engage? I know we are doing like weekly actions. So how do people get in contact with you all?
Yes, we are. The best way to get in touch with us and to keep updated on what's going on is through our Facebook page. It is what we are doing right now, and it's the Justice for Chello Coalition. We put weekly updates on there. We have community events that are on there. We had a call to action about wearing our Justice for Chello t-shirts for National Night Out. We have protest updates, educational opportunities, different things in the community for people to learn what their rights are. And then updates on, on the case, what we're asking for, what the community is doing, what the community isn't doing, what our leadership is doing, what our leadership is not doing. So Justice for Chello Coalition on Facebook is the best way to find us and to get in touch.
All right, Cyndi. Well, I thank you so much for joining us this evening. I really greatly appreciate you reaching out and representing the coalition. And we really hope that you all do get justice for Chello.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Miracle, for all your guidance. We appreciate you.
Oh, anytime.
All righty.
And again, that was Cyndi from the Justice for Chello Coalition. They are located in Erie County. Please make sure you go on to their website, and so that you can organize, you can support. Well, as she said, and the numbers fluctuate, but there are over 100,000 people in Pennsylvania that are impacted by some form of incarceration, whether on probation or parole. There are people who are under surveillance or under restriction by the government, various government systems like here in Pennsylvania. And so it's really, really important that people are aware of these systems, people are aware of these entities that do exist. And like she said, the people that we are electing are making determinants about how to use the money that's coming into Pennsylvania. There is an issue about the fact that there's supposed to be money for body cams, and these parole officers may or may not have had body cameras, may or not have had dashboard cameras. And so it's like really, really important as people are trying to study this Black August, that they are actually reaching out and figuring out what's going on within their own county, because this is something that impacts us all. According to one CNN report, 50%, over 50% of adults in the United States of America know at least one person who has been incarcerated within their lifetime. So if you think that Black August is something that doesn't impact you, it does. And so it's really, really important that you understand and that you organize, you mobilize, and that you continue to study. We've talked about George Jackson a lot during this, broadcast. His book, Blood in My Eye, is, a primary reader, but there's so many different books out there, Angela Davis, Prisons Are Obsolete, that talk about incarceration and talk about why incarceration is such a big deal. And another reason we wanted to have this conversation is we know in Pennsylvania, what our first guest was talking about was death by incarceration. In Pennsylvania is one of the few jurisdictions within the whole entire country that automatically sentences people to spend the rest of their natural life in imprisonment, even if they did not intend to kill an individual, even if their actions did not directly take someone else's life. We have second-degree murder here in Pennsylvania. And so if you are a party to a crime that results in someone's death, no matter how far away it is from the actual event, you can spend the rest of your natural life incarcerated. And so the case that Clinton was raising up was a case that said that in order to sentence someone to spend their natural life in prison, they should have the intent to do harm, the intent to kill someone. And so that is a conversation that our next guest wanted to have. And unfortunately, they are not able to be here. But CADB is the Coalition to Abolish Death by Incarceration. In Pennsylvania, people as young as 17 were once immediately sentenced to serve a lifetime in prison. And we know, thanks to the Supreme Court, a lot of individuals who are under the age of 18 have been able to come home, spending 30 plus 40 years of incarceration. And now they're trying to bring more people home because they understand that there's times where people have not been party to crimes, people have not intended to commit harm, and they're still incarcerated. And another thing our next guest wanted to raise up was the amount of women and girls who are in Pennsylvania um, prisons, right? People think a lot of times of incarceration as a male dominated entity or phenomena that happens. But in Pennsylvania, we once again have a lot of women and girls who are incarcerated. The majority of our girls who are in contact with the criminal justice system or the juvenile justice system are referred over from school, right? They've had issues at school, whether it is dress code, whether it's attendance, whether it's truancy, fighting. The majority of girls in Pennsylvania will become in contact through the prison system, through school referrals, sometimes for things that are not even technically criminal matters, dress code violations, things that people need support for, and that starts them onto the pathways of incarceration. We know the majority of women who are incarcerated are there. Over 50% of women who are incarcerated are there due to the connections with the partner. And so it's really, really important that we do not forget to lift up women and girls who are incarcerated, people who sometimes are forced to give birth, shackled, people sometimes who are forced to give birth and immediately be separated from their child, people who do not have access to sanitary pads and other medical supports they need as they're going through the changes with their body. So it's very important that we do not forget women and girls who are incarcerated, and we do not forget the trans and queer and disabled folks who are incarcerated. And so as we move and mobilize with our Black August work, we're going to keep raising up conversations about ways that you can get involved, ways you can show up. And there's a couple of events that are happening in Pennsylvania that we want to put on your radar. There is going to be a statewide caravan happening September 21st through the 27th, to talk about, ending death by incarceration, talking about raising issues and awareness of mass incarceration that is happening. It's launching right here in Pittsburgh on the 21st. It's going to be at, Saturday the 21st from 2 to 4 p.m. We're going to have some special guests. So we do want everyone to come down to this caravan where you can learn, you can engage, you can talk, you can meet people. A lot of times people think incarceration, people who are advocating are just people who've been incarcerated, but you can also meet victims and their family, and their representatives who are also fighting to end mass incarceration as well, because they understand it's so important. There's going to be letter writing campaigns happening throughout the month of August. There's going to be conversations that people are going to be talking about in public and in private. And so we do ask people, during this month to really learn about what's going on, to go to your local jail, look at your county dashboard, your jail dashboard, and look at how many lives are being impacted by incarceration. And before we go, we want to talk about the incarceration right now that is exploding in ways that many of us could not even fathom, is the ICE detentions that's happening at the Moshannon Center here in Pennsylvania. And I believe on August 24th, there is going to be an action happening at the ICE detention facility where people are going to be advocating for more humane conditions, and into ICE detentions. We've seen in the past couple of weeks the escalation that we've never seen before of people being preyed upon, people being snatched from their jobs, snatched from their homes. We've even had reports of ICE showing up at people's schools, trying to, grab, minors and youth from schools, and these are things that it's so wrong and it's so unjust. And so when we talk about ending mass incarceration, we also understand that detaining people, whether it's because they engaged in the protest, whether it's because they wrote an op-ed, whether it's because, they're from a certain country, whether it's because they have a certain skin color, is all incorrect, right? And so we know to be good neighbors is to stand up and advocate for our community members, our most vulnerable community members. And so as we are coming to this Black August, please continue to show up. Make sure you study, make sure you fast, make sure you train, and make sure you fight. Please join us next week at 7 p.m. We'll have some more special guests for this Black August edition, where we're going to be talking about fasting, talking about how we're able to impact people's lives inside and outside of mass incarceration. We have some wonderful guests, some people that, our first guest mentioned coming to talk about their experiences with incarceration, but some of the things that they've been doing since they've got home. Also, some people who are creating programming for those who are on the inside, so they have resources as they have come when they come back home. But we're also going to be learning about some of the nutrition, some of the things that people have when they're incarcerated, and ways again that we can mobilize around food justice for those who are incarcerated. Make sure you tune in next Tuesday at 7 p.m. One Power Hour. I am your host, Miracle Jones, and we'll see you next week at 7 p.m.